for being one of them.
Thank you.
And so, Andrew, what's the...
So we are, Karen, we are live on Facebook Live at Abraham Fun, and we also are recording now, so everybody's been warned. And Karen, who do we have as our speaker tonight?
We officially have Andrew Kaplan, also known as Andrew Cap, as that's his author name, as I understand it. And we are just so pleased to have you here, Andrew, and I just want to know all about this book you've written. It sounds so compelling, the title, and I want to know how you came to write it. And of course, a lot about the contents, and I'm sure you'll share that methodically with us. And so we are just so delighted to have you here. And tell us your YouTube channel that you upload continuous content on for 101 days straight recently.
Yeah, well, first of all, Karen, thank you so much for having me. Happy to dive into the details of how the book came about. But to answer that last question first, my YouTube channel is simply Andrew Cap, youtube.com/Andrew Cap. I just this week recently finished a 100-day challenge I gave myself at the beginning of the summer. And then I tacked on an extra day just for good measure. And you know, it's been a really fun, interesting road. And today I didn't upload anything. I'm giving myself a break to decompress so that I can go back at it. But people can expect a lot more content at the Andrew Cap channel on YouTube. And just a quick little aside, you know, Andrew Kaplan, Andrew Cap. The funny story behind that is the reason that you will find me on Amazon as Andrew Cap is because there was already an Andrew Kaplan, and I didn't want to cannibalize his sales inadvertently when I published my book. So I was like, all right, let me just shorten it up and make it even easier to type my name when you're searching for me.
Perfect. Wise decision.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. So yeah, I'm not sure, Karen, if you wanted me to talk about the book first and really the background that came into it or what my motivation was. I'm happy to dive into that first if you'd like.
You've got, Andrew, you're the boss.
Cool.
Yeah, just do what you feel inspired to do. First, second, third, fourth, whatever. You just do what feels comfortable to you.
Awesome.
And
well,
so
you know,
we're going to be on here on Facebook Live until 10, so you can entertain us for as much or a little of that as you want.
Cool. I was only going to be here for 15 minutes. No, I'm just kidding.
There you go.
I'm totally kidding. Yeah, I'm here with you. I'm really looking forward to this. So yeah, I guess we'll start here. And it's interesting. Usually I'm in an interview format, and this first answer, I'm always like, okay, I've got to get it out fast as possible because it's such a long story, and I don't want to get too long-winded, but the whole part of the book is actually linked to just how I discovered law of attraction, which, you know, that was back in 2004. So I don't even know, 17, 18 years, it's all a blur now. And I was a young fledgling entrepreneur, and I was just basically looking for answers to life, answers to being more successful in my business, answers to being happy or whatever it might be. And, you know, law of attraction was one of many modalities that I discovered, you know, just in terms of understanding myself, the world around me, things of that nature. And to be really candid, it wasn't very reliable. And I would find out a few years later that it was me who was not very reliable, because I think we're all in agreement. Law of attraction's pretty reliable. It's happening no matter what, although that wasn't my perception. And that was based on just a few misunderstandings about what was really involved, what my part was in it. And I bounced around for 4 years, you know, making mistakes, having some successes, having some failures. And things came to a head in 2008 where I really hit a hard wall, where in the span of 1 week, or even technically less than 1 week, I lost my business, or decided to quit on my business. And I lost my girlfriend of 3 years. And she didn't even break up in person or over a phone call. It was over text, because things were going that bad. So I kind of wake up on a Monday morning, and I've got my life, good or bad, I've got my whole life. And by Friday, I'm waking up and like what feels to me like 90% of my life is gone. And I basically had this moment of like, okay, I've got to figure this out. I've wasted my 20s. I'm going nowhere. Something needs to happen. And I had this very weird simultaneous moment of indignation and an epiphany of looking back and saying, well, hey, that law of attraction thing, it did work whenever I actually kept working in harmony with it, whenever I did any of those methods that I'd already learned. And because now I was at this point where I was just so frustrated and life was just so frustrating and it felt like something had to be done, I had enough of a motivation and I was just angry enough. I'm watching my language here because it's very easy to say bad words. So I was angry enough, like, listen, I'm doing this. And I basically made this decision of, I don't care what happens. I don't care when it happens. I don't care how it happens. I don't care why it happens. I don't care about any of that. All I know is I'm going to go all in with this law of attraction thing once and for all. And my definition of all in doesn't mean all day, every day, because no matter how upset I was, I'd been through the ringer and I was self-aware enough to understand and to know that it was not sustainable to be focusing or trying to be perfect at this all day, every day. But what I could do, especially with where I was there and this epiphany that I had, and especially in my experience of things when they had worked in those past 4 years, was I can do a method for 5 or 10 minutes a day. I can do a gratitude exercise. I can do a visualization exercise. I could do scripting, which I don't know if that's mentioned a lot in Abraham, like around this circle, but my version of scripting and this version of scripting that many people understand is simply journaling about your life in the present tense as if you're already living your dream life. But I was like, I can do all these things. And there's no quit this time. And when I finally made this decision to go all in and just do that every single day for even just 5 or 10 minutes, it was almost like a movie moment where magic happened, because 2 weeks later, I felt a lot better. Not perfect, but a lot better, which is saying a lot with a broken heart. I think anyone would agree who's had their heart broken. If you're feeling better in 2 weeks, something's going right. Within 3 months, I'm in a brand new, way healthier relationship with someone that understands me a lot better. We really resonate. Within 4 months, I'm making more money than at any point in my life before then. Within 6 months, everything's different. I'm in the best shape of my life. I'm waking up happy and fulfilled and grateful. Like everything's working for me. And I learned through that lesson, through my life experience, not a book, not a guru, not anybody else, but through my own life experience, that this thing, and we're going to call it the law of attraction, it works when you work it. And later on in our conversation, obviously, I'll talk about how, part of my discovery process in 2004 to 2008 was, of course, Abraham, one of the key sources of information that I was really studying, which is why I resonate so much with Abraham's teachings. But in any case, I had this recognition of, okay, now I get it. Even if I ever fall off again, at least I know now, if I just commit to this, if I don't worry about the details, if I just commit to doing these processes that feel good, things are going to work themselves out. And the really funny thing was, I kind of went about my life and I didn't teach. I didn't write my book till like 11 years later. And it was really simply a decision of like, I'd been living my life. I'd been discovering more. I'd been challenging myself more. I'd been testing the waters, trying new methods, always trying to do things that are more conducive or most conducive to just experiencing good feelings. And I was at a point where I was just bored in my business. And I said, listen, what can I do that I've never spoken about publicly, that I never put myself out there? That's a real key part of my life where, to be candid, I'm not going to be bored with my customers writing to me. I'm not going to be bored engaging with them or frustrated. I'm actually going to look forward to doing that. It's like, well, what's the most important, impactful aspect of life? Law of attraction. And that's where I made this really interesting decision of, okay, if I'm going to write a book, I don't want to write just any other book, because, whether positive or negative, there's like 1,000 law of attraction books out there. What good am I doing just by doing another one that doesn't make an impact? So I kind of got a little, I don't think arrogance the right word, but I certainly got confident. I said, I'm going to challenge myself, and I'm going to give myself permission to write this book called The Last Law of Attraction Book You'll Ever Need to Read. And before we hit the record button, I said, this isn't the last law of attraction book you ever will read, although it can be. It's the last one you'll ever need to read. Meaning my goal through this book was that if someone had been struggling with the law of attraction, whether they discovered Abraham or not, or whether they were going to other aspects, but if they've been reading books and doing programs, and for some reason they still can't get out of their own way and they don't understand what's going on, I wanted to answer that question for them. I wanted to give them a paradigm shift that was basically going to get them out of their way long enough to do methods long enough, user-friendly, easy methods long enough to get a result, so that just like me, they would have that life experience. Because once you get it experientially, no one can take that away from you. Because technically, it's not me teaching, it's not the book teaching, it's the book facilitating, and it's their life experience teaching. And that was really the motivation behind the book. And I published it November 2019. And ever since then, I've really been I guess shutting down is probably a good word. I've been moving away from other aspects of my business that have nothing to do with law of attraction, because this aspect is so fulfilling. Interacting with people, getting the emails that I get, doing the YouTube stuff I'm doing right now. This is so fulfilling that I'm being very happy, very fulfilled, of course, and very content leaning in this direction and doing most of my day and most of my business and most of my life around this. And I think that might be the most long-winded answer, if we could call that an answer, in a while there, but hoping that answered a number of questions and addressed a couple of curiosities. So with that said, I don't know if any questions pop into mind for anyone as I say that. I mean, I'm happy to talk more, happy to talk about YouTube, but I figure I'd take a quick break and see if anyone had a question pop up based on all the stuff that I'd given you so far.
Okay, Andrew, can I just make a comment, maybe question, comment, or whatever? Look, yeah, I can see there's a couple of words there that your phrases that really jump out or stick out for me. One is the first one, when you're at your low point, you know, and it's there's a guy back in this 80s, 70s or 80s, Werner Erhard, I think, you know, he used to have that phrase, you know, you either have a breakthrough or a breakdown. And a lot of times it's, you know, you got to have this breakdown, and that's when the opportunity for growth is so great. So you know, we before we started the recording, we were talking a little bit about, you know, synchronicity and, you know, right things happening at the right time. And sometimes one of the things that is right for us is something we wouldn't really embrace, you know, loss of your business, loss of your relationship, or things like that. And those, you know, we've really got to, you know, pay attention to these things, because they, otherwise we're just going to keep on rolling on and living our life and not really coming to that realization. And so that's the other word you were talking about, the epiphany, you know, is, you know, something that is really spontaneous, as you were alluding to as well, when you were saying, look, you know, your book is not going to change people's lives in and of itself. The people, when they put it into practice, they're going to change it for themselves. So, you know, it's all a bit of push and pull for both of these things. So I just, as I say, you know, these things, I don't think your story is unique to yourself. I mean, the details are totally unique to you, but for most people, and most people here and most people listening or watching later on are going to be saying, yeah, look, I've had times in my life where those sort of things have happened. I've come to this breakdown or breakthrough time, and, you know, I've emerged on the other side somehow better, wiser, more capable. And I think, you know, you were talking about scripting, and of course we are scripting our lives. We are making our own stories up. So we've got to choose in the right way. And, you know, that's a very, very powerful thing. So as I say, it's not really a question, but it's more a comment of, yeah, I think everybody can really, really resonate with what you've been saying and really identify with in a lot of ways. And, you know, it's really inspiring, or, you know, I think there's a lot of gratitude out there for what you're doing, because people can actually look and say, yeah, you know, I can understand what you've gone through and I can understand what you've done, and now I can see my path forward. And, you know, so teaching by example is the great way to do it. And, you know, I just want to say I applaud you for that. And, you know, I think that a lot of other people out there who've actually come across your book or have seen your interviews and things like that will also catch that from you, you know. And so, yeah, not a question so much as a comment and a validation in some ways.
Well, thank you, Brent, for the observations there. And, it's interesting because you say, you're sure people relate. Yeah, and before I ever decided to publish this book, I was doing, marketing. I was doing copywriting, which, by the way, quick little aside, I'm very grateful for the positive feedback that I receive on my book. And I think one of the reasons that it gets the feedback that it does is because I was very intentional about having the words in the book blend into each other, where there was a flow, there was a cadence. I didn't even see myself as an author. I saw myself as a high level editor where I would spit out the ideas and then I would massage them until it's like, okay, this is a sentence that will flow into the next. This is a paragraph that will flow into the next. This is a chapter that will flow into the next, because I understood that, unless the book gets read, then it's not going to do anyone any good. So I viewed the book, just again, as a little aside here, as an experience, just the way a concert is an experience, or a movie is an experience, or a vacation is an experience. I was very intentional about having a cadence to that. With that in mind, the reason I brought that up is because this is me bringing up my copywriting background, which is bringing up my marketing background, because one thing I learned as a marketer is that the more personal your story is, or your experience, or whatever it might be, the more universal. Because like you said, everyone's going to have their own specific details within the confines of that, but everyone knows what it's like to have their own heart broken, or to wonder what they're going to do for money, or their career, or their life, whatever it might be. So the more personal, the more universal. So that's when you were giving me that specific observation, that's what I was getting out of it. You also mentioned, the epiphany and, the breakthrough versus the breakdown. And let's see if I'm using the right word here, because I almost wonder if I'm coming off as iconoclastic as I say this, but I'm in full agreement that I think sometimes people, they get there through that breakdown. And I'm not saying that you said this, Brent. I'm not sure what your thoughts would be, but I'm also of the mind that it's not necessarily necessary. Even though I think most people, they have to go through it, I wish more people didn't go through it, or didn't have to go through it, because technically they don't. And again, I wish, I'm also iconoclastic in the sense that, a lot of people, they say no regrets in life. To this day, I mean, I'm glad that I got here, but if I could have saved, younger Andrew, the heartbreak and that horrible summer, as long as I knew that I'd still come out, I'd get my lessons, I would try to save him from it. So I'm this weird person where it's like, I still accept it, I embrace it, I move forward. But I also view it's like, that wasn't so fun. I can recognize that, but I can also say, all right, cool. Well, it happened. It is what it is. Now I want to push forward. And I would hope that that message resonates with people, because, we can change things, although we can change, like you were kind of hinting at or implying, Brent, how we view them within the confines of maybe losing that business for certain people is a blessing in disguise. Maybe that heartbreak, as horrible as it might feel, is a blessing in disguise. Maybe that bad week, maybe this, maybe that. I think the beauty of it is when we lean into gratitude, we lean into well-being, we lean into abundance, because there's so much going on beneath the surface, because there's so much that our senses are not picking up consciously, physically, in this three-dimensional tangible space. There are so many things clicking into place that we can't appreciate. So we don't really see how that perceived negative thing might be something that really is pushing us towards the thing that we want, that we've always wanted the most, and really helps us get there. So again, I don't welcome negative experiences, but when I do go through them, I, as strategically as possible, and I'm a strategy guy, that's what I'm all about, I strategically as possible try to leverage those into something that I'm going to make them positive in one way, shape, or form or another. That's really the goal for me. And I mentioned that also, again, just to ramble a bit here, my book, because you're talking like, I'm not very esoteric, and I don't mean that as a good or a bad thing. I just mean that as a style of delivery. I'm very practical. It was very important to me that this book would reach people that might be, the thing about Abraham people is they're open-minded. Their minds are wide open and they're very receptive. So I would hope that the book would resonate with them, but I also knew that I wanted to reach people that were kind of curious about the law of attraction. It might've been a little bit more cynical. So I was very intentional through the book and through the methods that I chose and through the way I described the steps in the methods of trying to make them very practical, very user-friendly, almost to a thing where it's like, listen, you don't have to believe in the law of attraction. Here's a little aside, even though I don't say it in the book, here's a little aside. Gratitude has been shown through scientific studies to increase confidence, improve sleep, reduce anxiety. In other words, I'm like in a lot of my interviews, when again, it's not a law of attraction crowd, but it might be a cynical crowd, I'm kind of fighting hard to frame something in a way where they see the benefit, where they're not reliant on their trusting of the law of attraction, even though I know that when they do it, they're going to get a result. It's more like I want people to feel open and welcome to just trying gratitude for 5 minutes a day or whatever it might be, because I know that when they do that without holding some false, unfair expectation of rushing something or the way something has to be, if they just have an open mind and leave the universe open to limitless possibilities and welcome the universe to surprise them pleasantly, they're going to get some awesome things in their life. And I've often said in interviews, again, we don't have to worry about this here because we all get it as, you know, as Abraham, as people that understand Abraham. But it's like, you know, even if law of attraction, if you don't believe in law of attraction, but you do this thing and you get a result, fine. Don't credit me. Don't credit my book. Don't credit the law of attraction. Don't credit Abraham. Don't credit God. Don't credit any of that, but at least recognize that you did this thing. You did this positive habit of gratitude or visualization or scripting or whatever, and you got a result. As weird as it might be, as spooky as the great John Carlton used to say, as spooky as it might be, at least have that recognition that this thing led to this result. So why not continue to do that thing, which ideally is fun and enjoyable in and of itself. And that to me is another thing that I think where people fall off on. I think oftentimes people have the methods in front of them, my book or anyone else's book, any method in Abraham's books. If someone is using these methods and they're finding themselves getting frustrated, well, then it's my suspicion that they are using the method as a way of forcing the universe to bend to their will versus actually enjoying the method in the moment. I'm of the belief that if you're doing methods every single day and you're not getting what you want yet, you're like, why am I even doing this? Well, that's proving to me that you're not actually enjoying the method, which is probably a huge clue as to why you're not getting what you want, because you don't even realize that you were inadvertently putting out the vibration of not having what you want. You're putting out that vibration of frustration. You don't even realize that you're doing it because, and this is what I put in the introduction to my book, it's kind of like, imagine you go to the gym and you know you're out of shape, but you want to get fit. You hate lifting weights, you hate treadmill, you hate everything. And someone comes up to you and they've got this magic carton of ice cream. And they say, listen, I've got this magic carton of ice cream. And I'll tell you what, if you take one spoonful a day of this ice cream, you're going to get the body of your dreams. All you got to do is take a spoonful. And by the way, if you don't like ice cream, substitute a bite of a cookie or a bite of a slice of pizza or whatever you like, but we'll go with ice cream. There's nobody that would fail in that regard. And by the way, I forgot if I said this, this ice cream, again, it's magical in that it has all the positive qualities of ice cream, but none of the negatives. Nobody's going to fail in that regard because since they love the ice cream and since it's only a spoonful, of course they're going to do it every day because they look forward to it. They enjoy it. They don't get tired of the flavor because it's magical ice cream, right? So of course they're going to get that result. And it is my hope and my wish, whether it's through my book or it's a method that you learn in an Abraham book, or it's a method you learn anywhere else, that you find a method or methods that you enjoy so much that you look forward to them. And notice I said a spoonful, not a carton, because if you love that ice cream, you eat the whole carton. But we're busy. We don't have time to eat the carton. That's why I say a spoonful. That's why I say 5 minutes a day. It sounds ridiculous to a lot of people, but 5 minutes has such a power to it because that is enough to set off that energetic momentum and set off that chain reaction of things getting better and better and better, where you're setting that vibrational tone. Because I think we all know, and if I'm sharp up on my Abrahamism, for lack of a better term, you know, positive thoughts and emotions are so much more powerful than negative ones, meaning that 5 minutes that you're doing then is going to overpower even an hour of negativity that you may experience later on in the day. Not that you should expect that negativity, but it's more to let you know that if you do get in a bad mood or something bad happens, you've not wasted that 5 minutes. You've not lost track because I kind of view it like somebody wrote me before they were there. And I made a YouTube video about this. They're like asking like, listen, I want to be financially free, but sometimes I'm doing the methods and I have doubts. And we were getting close to the start of the football season. So I kind of likened it to it's like a football game and you're on the field. And it's like, okay, you're going towards the end zone and that end zone represents your manifestation, right? So you have a good thought or a good feeling. This is all, you know, this is arbitrary, these numbers, but you have a good thought or feeling and you go 5 or 6 yards ahead. Then you have a negative thought or feeling and you go 2 or 3 yards back. You are still a net positive because of the positive emotion, even with the negative, meaning for any time you feel negative, as long as you're still going in the positive direction, over time, you're still going to move downfield towards that touchdown versus worrying like, oh my God, I had a negative thought. What do I do? That's another negative thought. Oh my God, I feel bad about that. It's another negative thought. And all of a sudden you're in a downward spiral. It's about a recognition of like, it is okay if you have a negative feeling or a negative thought. It's okay if you go through something negative, you have a bad experience. The key is, again, strategically, to not judge yourself, to not beat yourself up, because all you're doing through that self-judgment is you're compounding the negativity, where instead you can say, you know what, it's life. I'm in a three-dimensional reality. There's old patterns that are still playing themselves out. It's cool. Let me strategically lean more into gratitude and positivity now and keep going towards that touchdown, going towards that end zone, going towards that manifestational success, going towards that happiness, that fulfillment, that ease, that joy, that everything in life that I actually want. Now, that's a pretty long response to your comment, but that's what I was inspired to kind of say in response to you, Brent.
Okay, thanks for that, Andrew. Look, we could have a response, not a Q&A, a response, an R&R or something, response session here. Look, I reckon that, you know, that you're really touching on something really powerful here, really true. And as I was saying before, it's, you know, people, look, I've read your book. Well, look, I've read most of it. Some of the processes at the end I haven't actually got through, but, you know, and for myself, you know, I've tried them, and they're very useful, very beneficial, and very you know, you can see the results basically, you know. And as they say, look, I don't know if you have it in the States. There's a saying that the proof of the pudding is in the eating. You say that one? Yeah. Okay, great. It's really hard to know the idioms sometimes. Yeah. Yeah, when as you were saying, look, you can believe in it or not believe in it. If you try it and it works, then great. Then you're going to be, you know, somehow have it happen for you. And it's the thing is, again, you touch on this in your book, is that people don't know that it's happening for them all the time. And you know, you've got the ice cream analogy, which is you know, I think it's a great one. Another one I liked was the disinterested donut guy, which is look, you could probably explain it better, a bit later on, but it's where, you know, people get what they want even if they don't know what they want. I'll let you explain that one, maybe.
Yeah, absolutely. So the thing about the disinterested donut guy is kind of like, and by the way, this is going back to, I wanted to make the book readable, for lack of a better term. I want to make it relatable. And I found that whether you're talking about, again, we're into this three-dimensional space, this physical reality. If I can relate things through analogy or metaphor, whatever it might be, to physical, tangible things that people already have in their mind for context, it makes things click that much more, which is why I talk about the ice cream in the gym and why I talk about the disinterested donut guy. And the thing about the disinterested donut guy is this situation where if you go to a Dunkin' Donuts, you go to any donut place and you order the donuts, the person behind the counter is not going to say, all right, I know you ordered the glaze, but that's not what you really want. Or I know you ordered the chocolate frosted, but you know what? Let me give you this one. Said, no, they're going to give you what you ordered. And the universe is the disinterested donut guy in the sense that it doesn't not care about you, but it is going to honor you to the point where it's going to give you whatever donuts you actually order, meaning whatever thoughts and feelings, whatever patterns you put out there, it's going to say, okay, well, free will, have at it. Here is your result. Here, Andrew, is all your thoughts and feelings leading to that heartbreak and leading to losing your business and your girlfriend in 1 week. You asked for that donut, you got it. It's like, okay, maybe I better order a donut that I'm going to enjoy the taste a lot more. And, you know, it's one of those things where I think it's so important. This, by the way, why I would hope and why I feel like I resonate a lot with what Abraham says in Abraham's teachings. And I think we talked about this before we hit the record button. Even to this day, every so often, because, you know, I don't, not anyone should be. I don't view Abraham as a competitor. Like, we're all just putting this thing out there and the right people will find it in the right way. So I will, every so often, I'll still enjoy an Abraham YouTube video or whatever. I love to hear them speak. I love to hear their perspective. It's a wonderful reminder of stuff for me. I'm not some big, high and mighty, law of attraction author / guru that I don't need to hear Abraham. No, I'll listen. I really enjoy their stuff. And what I get out of Abraham, what I really get from them through all the answers that they give to people, and you see everyone goes in so many different directions. Abraham will go, they'll meet them where they're at, but then it seems like they're going the same place. And it all comes down to me is feeling good more than feeling bad, leaning in the direction of feeling good and letting, not that I've ever heard Abraham use this terminology, but letting things almost autocorrect from there. They really will autocorrect. And it's not that you're not going to take an action, but like Abraham says, you'll take inspired action. Things will unfold, opportunities will unfold, ideas will unfold, circumstances will unfold, people, places, things, whatever that might be, when you're just feeling good more than bad, where you're not judging yourself. That's what I always, if someone like was new to Abraham, I could tell them, listen, all Abraham wants is for you to feel good more than you feel bad. And then they're like, oh, don't believe me? I'll sit down and I'll watch any random Abraham. I'm like, queue up an Abraham video on YouTube. I don't care what it is. Find any question to any answer to any question. Just find it. I'm like, look, they just did that. All they want is, and maybe they want more, but I'm boiling it down to this really simple thing because I believe that there's value, because we as humans, we make things so complicated. So if we can only, again, strategically make things as simple, as user-friendly for ourselves as possible, we're going to enjoy a lot more. We're going to have better results, better experiences. We're going to work in harmony with the law of attraction to a way that is just much more conducive to what we actually want. My goal is just explaining something in a way that just makes it so simple that people are like, there's no way it could be this simple. There's no way it could work. It's like, exactly. The fact that it's that simple, it's a counterintuitive thing. Because it's that simple, because you don't believe it, that's your clue that it actually works. Because the complicated thing is where we trip ourselves up. It's a complicated thing where we unnecessarily take ourselves down these roads that just don't serve us, or at the very least, delay us from the things that we want. And it really is my hope, whether it's my book, my YouTube channel, or somebody else, like if I'm not their cup of tea, it's just my hope that everyone, whether they're into the law of attraction or not, whether they're into Abraham or not, it's my wish that people come upon the opportunity to have this discovery, to have this level of awareness for themselves, that they can all of a sudden utilize and leverage this and say, all right, cool. I understand now, for better or worse, it's probably a really good idea for myself strategically and everyone I care about, by the way. And by the way, the world and the universe at large, it's probably better. I'm probably serving myself and everyone and everything around me more by leaning in that well-being, by leaning into that abundance, by leaning into feeling good. And I think, another piece, again, just to bounce around here, I think a lot of times people, they'll deal with depression and they're like, how do I get out of it? And I'm not a clinical psychologist and I'm not an expert, but what I would suggest to someone that might be having a difficult time is, if you can make the decision to be a light to the world, you might be pleasantly surprised or shocked by the changes that you might experience. It's like me, I am selfishly being selfless because I know that when I help people, I feel good. So there's a selfish impulse there, but I'm okay with it because I know through that selfish activity, I am still ideally, hopefully, at least to the best of my ability, making the world a better place or improving someone's life in some way, shape, or form. So I think it's one of those things where it's like, if you're frustrated with life, you're like, what do I do? I hate this. What's going on? I'm like, all right, sit down, meditate, take a couple of deep breaths. Envision light coming from the brightest star in the galaxy, entering your body so much so that you're overflowing with this light. It could be white light, it could be golden light, whatever resonates with you. As you inhale, you take it in. And as you exhale, just share it and spread it across the universe to everyone and everything around you, because you are so abundant with the light that of course you can share it because there's plenty to go around. And then, okay, next breath in, you breathe in the white light, you breathe in the golden light, you breathe out, you send it out to the world, send it to your enemies, send it to people that you're having trouble forgiving, send it to people that you love, send it to the world, send it to the stars, send it to the galaxy, send it to the cosmos. When you are doing that simple exercise, not only are you going to notice yourself feeling better, but it is my belief, in my opinion, that you are an anchor of light, not only in this world, but in this universe. And you're making a tremendous impact. And again, this is theory. This is just me saying this. You could believe me or not. But I do know that if you do something even like that for 5 minutes a day, you will recognize things in your life get better and better and better and better and better. And it's one of those things where what I love about it is technically Abraham's explaining it and I'm explaining it, but really it can't be explained, at least not on a cognitive level that we can really understand. But Abraham, I think, again, this is my opinion, distills and boils things down to a place where, you know, the human being and the human mind can understand it. But there is so much more going on. Like, think about the fact that even this conversation that I'm having, all right, my laptop is plugged into the wall. So I can make this weird rationalization that there's a really long wire connected to everyone else, but it's really not, especially if I unplug the thing. And yet here we're having this conversation in real time. And for anyone else that watches later on, how are we having this instant conversation where someone's in, you know, the United Kingdom, someone's in Australia, someone's in Florida, someone's elsewhere in New York? How are we doing this in real time? Well, there's vibrations, there are frequencies that's outside our perception that are there. When you blow a dog whistle really hard, why does the dog freak out and you don't freak out? Because the dog has a body that's attuned that can pick up those frequencies. There's so many frequencies, colors, lights, flashes, patterns, things that you can't even put into words that are going on. It's this energetic vibrational soup of frequency that we can never really figure it out for ourselves how it works, but we can do enough to work in harmony with it by putting out those positive vibes, by leaning into abundance, by leaning into positivity, by looking at the glass as half full rather than half empty, by doing all those things. It all comes down again to just being strategic and leaning in that direction. And there's so much power there. And again, that's whether you dig Abraham or you enjoy my stuff or you really are into the law of attraction or not. I think the beauty of it is, you know, I think any law of attraction author or book worth its salt, it's often saying the same thing in a different way. I'm a little bit, again, I don't know what we say, egotistical or arrogant in the sense that I do think that my book has an extra piece. The thing where I try to separate my book is of the understanding that most people, when they discover this, they get really excited, they start to use it, they start to get results, and then they still stop. So I think an added element, which by the way, I'm happy to let the cat out of the bag and give the explanation, but an element that I kind of hang my hat on about my book is I try to address that. I try to explain that to people to give them that level of self-awareness so that they don't trip themselves up. Because the thing about it is law of attraction is such a powerful thing, but if you don't see how you're getting yourself in your own way, if you don't see how you're stopping yourself from utilizing or leveraging the power of it, well, then that's why it's not working. And I remember someone wrote me an email and she's like, Andrew, I quit. The law of attraction is not working. I said, listen, the law it's not the law of attraction that's not working. It's your application of the way the law of attraction does work that's not working. That's the thing that's not off, because again, it's working nonstop no matter what. So please have that recognition, because then that's putting you in a place of agency where you can actually do something about it. And just, to satisfy the curiosity of people wondering, okay, what's the explanation? Why is it that if you're struggling, why do I struggle? Why do I do this thing? Why do I learn about the law of attraction and I get results and I still stop? And it's because, I kind of see it. And again, I'm explaining this in an understandable way, just like I'm explaining the ice cream and the disinterested donut guy. So just to put it this way, even if this isn't the absolute truth, we've got three minds. We've got the conscious mind, we've got the subconscious mind, and we've got what I define as the ego. And I'm not a clinical psychologist, and you're probably not going to see my definition of the ego in a textbook. I'm just using that word because people can cognitively understand it and anchor it. But, the ego, the way I see it, is way stronger than the conscious mind, but nothing compared to the subconscious. And the ego, as I define it, has one job in this world, and that's to keep you alive. And all the ego knows is right now in this moment, you are alive. And that means whatever money problems you have, whatever relationship problems you have, even whatever health problems you have, your ego is like, well, my person is still alive. I really don't know the probability of survival if things change. Therefore, whether it's a positive change or whatever, I don't want to lean in that direction. I was doing a live stream last night in celebration of my 100 straight days of content on YouTube. And someone put in the chat, they're like, hey, Andrew, I got your book. I use law of attraction. I got five new clients. It was amazing. And then I stopped. Is it the ego? I'm like, yeah, it's the ego, because your ego's freaking out because it saw that you got 5 new clients And it's worried you're going to get rich now. And it's worried that if you're rich, it doesn't know what's going to happen. Maybe distant family is going to come out of the woodwork and try to take your home from you, try to sue you or something. Maybe there's someone that wants to be famous and their ego's like, because if you're famous, you're going to get a bunch of stalkers. I'm not having it. Your ego is worried that even when you're trying to make these positive changes, it's worried that you're going to make the positive change, and that even though it's not true, it's worried that it's going to lead into something that's going to threaten your survival. So your ego actually loves you. It's in your corner. It's a misguided attempt. It's keeping you stuck in place, even though it thinks it's keeping you safe in place. And so I explain it in this way because when you have that recognition, and by the way, when you're grateful for your ego for fighting so hard for you, you can say, okay, what can I do about this? Well, conscious mind, ego is stronger. Subconscious mind is way stronger. Why don't we bypass the ego? Why don't we find methods that are so enjoyable that will, like that spoonful of ice cream, and so quick and convenient like that spoonful of ice cream, that it'll be a lot harder for the ego to talk us out of doing them. And then because it's so much harder for the ego to stop us from doing it, we will get results. And before you know it, okay, now I've got another story on my house and the ego's looking around like, oh my God, it's safe. I'm going to fight tooth and nail to protect this. Then I'm going to fall in love. Like, oh my God, Andrew's in love and it's safe. I'm going to fight tooth and nail to protect that, because the subconscious mind sending that signal out to the universe. And also, because it's all in the physical part here, governing your actions. If you can use the methods to feed your subconscious mind instructions about getting that job promotion, you will find yourself standing up or sitting up more straight in office meetings. You'll be more assertive. You'll come up with better ideas. There will be a cadence to your voice. There'll be an inflection. There'll be something to your body language, something to your eye contact, where people will just like you more. Your boss will notice you more. It's happening on autopilot because your subconscious mind, an aspect and an extension of the universe, which is gifting this to you, it's mathematically figured out the moves that you have to make in order to get that promotion that you want. And therefore, it's governing your actions in ways that you are not perceiving through the universe. Universe, in turn, working in cooperation with this, is putting people in your path, putting circumstances in your path, feeding the ideas through the subconscious mind for you to have, so that you get that promotion. So I know I'm kind of like going all over the place here, but it's one big cascading web of when you understand what's getting in your way and you say, okay, strategically, I'm going to find methods that are so enjoyable that I enjoy in the moment. I'll do them long enough to get the result, bypassing the ego. That's how you chip away. That's how you go downfield toward that end zone, even when negative things happen. Because again, negative things, I don't mean to come out as like a Donnie Downer here. Negative things more often than not will happen because we've got old fixed patterns of thought, because we are in a soup of mass consciousness where there's a lot of bad news and a lot of stuff going on. It's going to happen. The key is you want to be as okay with that as possible, because when you are okay with it, it's going to happen less frequently and it's going to affect you less over time. You're going to get better. You're going to raise your game. And then it's going to come to a point where your down days are better than your best days from a year ago or 5 years ago or whatever. There's no judgment on time here. So it's all about saying, all right, what can I do? What can I do strategically and say, listen, how do I invite better? How do I invite more? Finding methods that are fun. In an Abraham book, in Andrew's book, on YouTube, methods that I enjoy. I enjoy this thing. I don't like that one. So I tried it out, cool. And maybe next week I'll try it again, but I don't like it enough to keep doing it. But I do know I like that one and that one. So I'm going to lean into those. I'm going to make sure I'm doing those because I look forward to them. And when I get bored with that one, I'm going to keep tinkering and find other ones. And while I'm doing this one, I'm going to experiment with other ones. That way, if I do get bored, I've got some methods in reserve. I'm always going to have a method that's there for me that I can lean into. I'm always going to have something waiting because I'm a planner. I'm strategic. And I know that when I'm strategically engaging with the universe in this way, the universe is strategically engaging on my behalf and conspiring on my behalf. I'm playing my part. I'm doing my role. I think it was Mike Dooley. He gave a wonderful presentation. I think you can still find on YouTube. It's a really grainy video because it's like from forever ago. I think it's like 7 minutes and change. And he talks about, I think it's just Mike Dooley, Thoughts Become Things. It's I forgot the name of the speakers group. It'll come to me. It's one of those famous speakers groups. But so he gave this presentation. He's like, listen, the universe still wants you to pitch the balls. Like the universe will knock it out of the park for you, but you still have to throw. It was Toastmasters. That was the group. You still have to throw the ball to the universe. And okay, it swung, it missed. Throw another ball. Throw a ball, do a method, follow inspired action. Like, I think, a lot of people say you can sit on your couch and do nothing. theoretically, but like, why are you here? You're here to engage with the universe, meaning sit on your couch for a week, breathe, meditate, but then you'll get an idea. Like for me, I will happily win the lottery, but I don't worry about it. I don't think about it. I'm happier right now, working hard to get the book out there, and I'm making money in that way because I think I'm making a positive difference and having fulfillment. Whereas if I won the lottery, I'm just going to sit around and do nothing. Or I'd like to think hopefully I'll still engage with the world and still do good things, but there's less motivation there, right? So it's like, everyone that wants to win the lottery, please lean in that direction also, but please don't need it. Don't need the lottery, because maybe you have a skill or talent and you don't have to write a book. Maybe your product or your business or your service on the surface is very mundane, but maybe you love it and maybe you really help people with it. There's nothing that needs to be glamorous or not glamorous enough. There's no judgment on that, but engage with the world, do these things, take action. I mean, again, sit on your couch long enough to get a good idea, to feel good about the moment, but also don't be hesitant about taking action if it feels good to you, if it really resonates with you, because there's so much there. Being on this call, I mean, Karen here and Mark here, everyone like putting this thing together, clicking the record button, that's action, right? Without doing that, people are not going to find this phone call. They're not going to get any benefit. I mean, and we're like, well, that's not action. Well, it's easy action. That's why we're not classifying it as action, because it's like, oh, duh. But that's the beauty of inspired action, because it's not always going to be easy, but it should come to a point where it's so fun that it's just as easy to you as clicking a record button or doing whatever else. That's the beauty of this. That's the fun of this. Me, it's Friday night, right? Can I be, I know it's a weird place in the world right now. Can I be outside in theory or doing stuff? Yeah, I'm having fun here. Why would I not want to be here on a Friday night, having this conversation with people that totally vibe with me, with people we appreciate the same thing. We appreciate the message of Abraham. More than the message of Abraham, we appreciate the benefits that come as a result of that message. We appreciate the growth and abundance that results from that message. We appreciate that. Why would I not want to hang out with people and talk about it? Why would I not want to go on Vistaprint and print out a huge, cover of my book so big that it takes up the whole screen? Like, yo, look at my book. Why would I not do that? Why would I not have fun? Why would I not, like Lynn was talking about before we hit the record button? Why would I not improve my set and have better backgrounds? Why would I not improve my microphone and my camera and all these things so that I have a clear image, that someone will wait a little bit longer when they're watching my YouTube videos, hang out a little longer, maybe get a better message, or maybe get that method I was trying to teach them, or that paradigm shift, or whatever it might be. Why not do that? Why not lean in that direction? That's what I'll let the cat out of the bag. That's what my YouTube 100 days was about. I basically showed up for 100 days. And I said this in the video that it came out a couple of days ago. I could have done a fitness challenge, and I could have done an announcement like, hey, people, I'm going to do a fitness challenge and just watch what happens. And then, all of a sudden my jaw is a little more chiseled and my face is a little thinner and I'm looking fit again. But instead, I showed up on YouTube every single day and I upload a new video. And I didn't even tell people what I was doing. Like, 30 days in, I'm like, hey guys, this is my 31st day of content consecutive. And then like, I'm 50 days in, I've done 50 days. But it wasn't until like day 90, I'm like, hey guys, just so you know, it was always my plan to do 100 consecutive days. And I'll tell you why on day 100. And day 100 rolls around, and I kind of give this whole long thing of what it was like filming these videos. And I try not to be a complainer, but simultaneously, I try to make really people understand how much work went into it. All the recording, all the editing that I did myself, getting the new camera, getting the new microphone, getting all these things. I've had to make sure I had put so much time, focus, and energy into this. And the big takeaway that I was giving to people that I couldn't have done with a fitness challenge, that I can only do by showing up every single day was, listen, if I could show up every single day, 100 straight days, through all the editing, all the recording, all the frustrations, all the challenge, if I could do that, what's to stop everyone watching from 5 minutes a day of a method that you actually enjoy, where there isn't resistance, there isn't frustration, there isn't stress, there isn't gritting your teeth, there isn't, having to edit a long video for 5 or 10 hours, literally 5 or 10 hours. There isn't having to record for 20 or 40 minutes and having to whittle it down to 10 minutes. If I can do all that and you see me every day, you just go down the video, notice every single video, it's the day before, there was no break between June 1st and September 8th. If I could show up in that way and you see me showing up every day, There's like no excuse why you can't find a method that you like and spend 5 minutes a day doing that and engaging with that. And that was like my mission. That was like my artistic vision of what I wanted those 100 days to be. It wasn't about growing the YouTube channel because, I mean, I'll take the growth. It didn't grow by much. I'll take the growth. But technically, because I was doing something every single day, I didn't have the bandwidth or the energy to make better thumbnails or to make better subject lines that would attract more people. And I had to worry, like, am I fatiguing my audience? Should I be doing one video a week instead of one a day? Because people are like, they can't keep up with everything. So this wasn't about growing my YouTube because a lot of it was almost contradictory to YouTube growth. It was about that artistic vision of saying, listen, I'm going to take a little time off from my business and make a little less money and do this and have this to hang my hat on. Because now I can always like refer people like, hey, you want to know what showing up looks like? Look what I did here. And then tell me that you can't do 5 minutes a day of something that you actually like and enjoy and look forward to. And that was the vision. And I really hope, you know, whether it's me or someone else, people find someone showing up every single day and said, okay, I get it. I can do 5 minutes a day. I can do gratitude method. I can do scripting. I can do visualization. I can do whatever I like the most. And I want to do scripting, but I don't, my hand cramps up. Okay, good. Type it instead. I know they say handwriting's better, but typing, listen, it works. I know someone who scripted through a keyboard. She scripted her way from $0 in the bank to $1 million in 16 months. So typing works also. Yeah, nice, Andrew, but I don't like typing. Okay, spoken scripting. You can speak it. You can pull out your phone, you can hit the record button, and you can talk for 90 seconds or 30 seconds or 5 minutes. There is no excuse. You don't like writing it out, type it out. You don't type it out, speak it out. You don't like saying it, think it. There's always a layer. There's always a level. It's always going to come to a point. At some point, you've got to say, okay, it's my ego. It's a level of ridiculousness where, okay, I know I can do this. I can do 30 seconds. I mean, if I can't do 30 seconds, I'm lying to myself. I'm not really, you know, giving myself enough credit to say, listen, I can do this. And that's what I challenge people to do. I challenge people to get themselves to the ridiculous. You like knock out every excuse because you don't, listen, if you like meditating for an hour, do it. But if you don't enjoy it, you are going to grit your teeth, you're going to hate the moment, and you're only going to put out a negative vibration. You should only be meditating for an hour if you love it. You should only be meditating for 20 minutes if you love it. You should only be meditating for 7 minutes if you love it. If you don't love it, you know, if you're getting bored, if you're getting antsy, you're fighting yourself. It is my humble experience and opinion that 5 minutes is enough. If that's all you can do, beautiful. And if you can't do 5 minutes, do 30 seconds. And over time, you're like, okay, I can do 40 now. Okay, I can do 60 seconds. Okay, 90 seconds. And before you know it, you know, it's funny that this whole 100-day challenge thing, I was reading something like, hey, you want to do something cool on YouTube? Do a 30-day challenge. Upload one new video every day for 30 days, which to me was scary because if you look at my YouTube history, in January, I uploaded one video because I was so busy with everything else. I was going on podcast interviews and everything. I was trying to put my message out there. February, I uploaded 0 videos. March, I uploaded 2 videos. I was like, something's got to happen. And then I'm reading this thing about a 30-day challenge. I'm like, oh my God. In January through March, I did like 3 videos. How am I going to do 30? I'm like, well, you know what? Why don't I do 60? You know what? 90? No, 100. Like between from 30 to 100 was like 15 seconds. And I'm like, okay, I guess I'm doing 100 videos now. I gave myself permission to write this really ambitious book with this really ambitious title, which, by the way, if I don't live up to the hype, I'm going to get killed in reviews. So I better actually live up to the hype. I better actually make this book everything I'm saying it is and then some. If I don't live up to this title, all right, well, now I better live up to this 100-day challenge. I better show up. I better do it. It becomes to a point where you just got to give yourself permission, and not to the point that it's detrimental to your health. You've got to be very self-aware. You don't want to kill yourself. You don't want to put yourself to a place where you're getting sick or you're getting worn out. I know myself. I know myself well enough, and I know my bandwidth well enough that I could have done this, which I did do, by saying no to other things. If I said yes to all those other things, I would have burnt out. So I said no to things. I said no to opportunities. I said no to money. I said no because I'm sticking with this, because I'm abundant. The money is going to be there. That's fine. Let me do this thing. So I guess I'm saying, you know, do whatever you want to do and challenge yourself, never to the point of being sick or hurting yourself, but just understand that whatever you think you can do, whatever you think your limits are, like Michael Jordan said this in his retirement speech. He said, fears, and he said limits like fears are often just an illusion. And that limit that you think you have, that's not the real, I mean, there's, to your human body and your human mind, I mean, I'm going to be honest, there's a limit, but it's not the limit that you see. It's way past that. It's way past that. And that comes to people like, well, I'm not good at visualizing. Okay, cool. Script. And by the way, here's a little trick. I'm going to let the cat out of the bag. I'm going to let the secret out early. When you are scripting, you are actually accessing your visual cortex. You don't realize you are, but you're doing it. So you are visualizing. So if you can't visualize the way the books tell you to visualize, the way the video, Abraham's not hard up about this. I've never seen Abraham give like bad directions, but I've seen other law of attraction books give really bad directions and be very stringent and very particular. Like it has to be this way. And then people are like, okay, I guess I have to visualize that way. Otherwise I'm doing it wrong. No, if you script, you're accessing your visual cortex. You're doing it. So whatever limit you're putting in front of yourself, I'm going to be very careful with my language here. It's BS. All right. I'll be nice. And, but we know what I'm talking about here. It's not real. It's an illusion. Your limits are an illusion. All these reasons are an illusion. And by the way, I fully understand that there are people that are going to be listening to this right now that are in physical pain, mental pain, emotional pain, spiritual pain. And you know what? I'm not going to pretend that I know what it's like to be you. And I'm not going to pretend like that's not a problem. All I'm saying is, in recognition of that problem, in recognition of that challenge, do yourself the service. Do yourself the favor, do yourself the goodness or the goodwill of engaging in a method for 5 minutes a day in the strategic hope that will engage the universe to start fixing those things for you. Don't do it. Don't not do it because you're in pain. Do it because you're in pain. Say, all right, listen, all right, cool. I'm glad Andrew's not telling me that it's oh, it's easy, whatever. All right, I'm glad he's acknowledging that. But, oh, I know what he's saying now. Like, I should be doing this because life is so hard for me right now, because I'm in that pain, because I'm feeling constricted, I'm feeling isolated because there's a lockdown or whatever it might be. What can I do in response to this that's conducive and constructive to a better life? That's what you want. That's where you want to go.
Andrew,
Yes.
Can I let you take a breath?
Cool.
Look, I can comment again, another comment. I can, a sip of water, that'll help. You obviously are passionate about this. You can see the enthusiasm coming out here, and that's really great. I'm sure other people here tonight have got comments to go along as well with what you've said. And, there's a lot of what you said just there. So can I just touch on a few things,
please,
that came up?
I'm gonna get a drink of water while you have at it, my friend.
Thanks. Yeah. A couple of things came up, or many things came up as you were talking there. And one of the things that really came up was a quote from Isaac Newton, who said, I think it was him who said it. People said, "Oh, wow, you're a genius. You're doing so well. You come up with all these fantastic ideas and things." And he says, "Look, we appear to be giants because we appear to be great because we're standing on the shoulders of giants." And the thing is that all of this is there. It's all in some way or form out there, and people can access it, and people can utilize it. And I think what you've got there with your book is your unique perspective, your unique view on the whole thing, and that's very valuable. And somebody's going to come along who's never had success with law of attraction, and they're going to read your book, and it's finally going to click for them, and that's great. And my opinion of this is that everybody is a creator. This is a really, really important thing, that everybody creates their reality, and somebody in some way has created your book coming into their life. So it's not by accident. It's not. So Lynn has done it. She look. I saw the interview before, and she was saying that she was on a train somewhere or something, and she was reading it, and suddenly, wow, there's the epiphany. And that wouldn't have happened if it hadn't, all that groundwork hadn't been laid before, and all that preparation, and all the ups and all the downs. And so that brings me to another point that came up, or another thing that I was going to mention. There's a very well kind of famous book. I don't know if you ever heard of it. It's called Zen and the Art of Archery by a guy called Eugen Herrigel, I think it is. And it's a very short little book about a German guy who goes to Japan, and he studies archery, with a Zen master or whatever it is. And, he's always, he's got all these things going on in his head, and, all these, oh, I've got to be doing this right, got to be doing that and everything. And eventually comes to this realization, and the line in the book is that, everything, I'm not doing it justice. If you get a chance to find the book, then, that'd be great. But, the whole ritual, if you ever seen Zen archery, they sit down in a certain way. It's called Seiza, and they pick up the bow in the right way, and they fletch the arrow in the right way, and everything's totally in the moment. Everything's concentrated, and they pull it back. And he describes it. The shot is not actually a shot. He said it's like fruit falling from a tree. When the the seed is planted, the tree grows, gets pollinated, sunshine, water, all that, and eventually the fruit forms, and when it's ready, it just drops. Okay, so these things happen by themselves, and if Lynn hadn't been in that on that train or the bus or the train or whatever, going to that meeting, and hadn't picked up your book, and all these things hadn't happened, then she wouldn't be able to have that epiphany, wouldn't be able to come to that realization, which is great. So in a sense, she has created it for herself. And coming back, this is another point you were talking about a little bit before about depression. What I've heard a very again, like you, I'm not a clinical psychologist or anything like that, but I've heard somebody say one of the main causes of depression, if not the only cause of depression, is that people are not creating. We came here to create. We've come into this physical existence. I mean, again, in your book, you're careful not to get too esoteric, but we are here to create. It's human nature. It's what we do. Is we are creators, and if we're not creating, then we feel frustrated, and then we feel like we can't get that force out, that life force is not flowing through us, and it becomes stifled, and then we become we feel we've lost something. We feel the sense of loss because of that frustration, and that leads to depression. So when people are creating, and as you're saying, the thing is, you want to do something that you love. You want to come on to talks like this and actually talk about something you love, and why not be here on a Friday night? Why not start the juices flowing and really get into something meaty, rather than going out and trying to force sales by upgrading your content or whatever it is when you're not really interested in that. So when things flow, it becomes a lot easier, which is again, another Eastern concept. There's from China, there's a thing called Wu Wei. I don't know if you've ever heard of that.
I've heard the expression.
Sorry?
I've heard the expression, but please.
Okay. Wu Wei, yeah, look, it means non-effort, which is, it doesn't mean, as you were saying before, not doing anything. It doesn't mean doing nothing. It means, again, this is what in Abraham Hicks circles would probably be called inspired action, but things like the fruit falling from the tree, things happen by themselves because everything is in place. Everything, all the stars have aligned. All the things have come together, and it's just like you're saying. You're just clicking the record button, and you say, "Well, I'm not doing anything much. I'm just, I'm clicking the record button." But Karen and Mark and other people on this group, they started it all. They've set it up. They're the admins. They deal with all these little bits and pieces every day. Each one of those series of actions is probably, I'm not doing much. I'm just, doing something very, very natural. And what they are doing is creating. And again, another thing from your talk, that came up was the idea of perspective, or what kind of perspective are you having now? If you are seeing, wow, I've got to do this, I've got to do this, I've got to do this, and I've got all these things, and I've got to get to this goal, and I've got to get to this end zone, or whatever it is, then it becomes overwhelming, and people feel, oh, I can't get to my success because I've got all these things to do. And when as they say, how do you eat an elephant? One bite at a time. So, when you can start doing these little things, and each one is like the fruit falling from the tree, then as long as you've got your mindset, your perspective is, this is what I want. I want to be happy. I want to be at this end goal. I'm not worried about the details. I want to get my book done. I want to get a book done, or I want to get a business happening, or I want to get in a relationship, or whatever it is. As long as you're not, tripping yourself up by making it too specific, then one step at a time, then you'll be flowing downstream, as Abraham Hicks says. You're going with the flow. You're not fighting upstream. So yeah, it's in your book. You list, I don't know how many. It must be 20 or more techniques at the end there, and they're all very, very little spoonfuls of ice cream that are that are not hard to do. They're pretty easy to do, and as long as you apply them, as long as you can keep that perspective up higher rather than getting too close, too entangled in the everyday minutiae of things, then you can actually move forward in an effortless way. One other thing before I hand back to you, I don't want to take up all the time, but one thing that did hit me, or did strike me when I was reading your book, is you use the word ego. And of course, again, I'm not a clinical psychologist or whatever, but I know a lot of people are going to be saying, oh, well, the ego is the super ego and the id, and and Freud said this and Jung said that. And, when I was reading it, a helpful thing for me is I was always reading it as survival ego, because it makes more sense to me. And because all that other baggage, all that other labeling was sort of coming in. And I really like that insight, because you're saying that this part of your personality wants to play it safe, wants to keep you safe. It's kind of the Neanderthal primitive part of you that's saying, well, there's saber-toothed tigers in the bushes, and whatever it is, and we've got to stay here by the campfire and don't venture out, and it's that type of thing that trips you up as you're going along. And I think ego is a good word, because ego means this is what we are identifying with. So, you are Andrew Kaplan, I am Brent Chapman, or whatever, I'm Brent Chapman, I'm, living in Australia, I've got 3 kids or whatever, I've got this job, I've got this thing, everybody expects all these things. And this is a whole list of things that build up my ego. And that's not going to want to be dismantled, because, as we were saying before, there's everything is a process of change. And when there's change, it's always involves a bit of dismantling. You've got to let go of those things. To grasp the new, you've got to let go of the old. And, this survival ego mechanism is going to fight tooth and nail to get away from, to stop you doing that. And that's why people keep on going back in this loop of, coming back and self-sabotaging. And so what I like, again, and again, thank you very much, praise on your book, is this idea that you've got is just circumventing, or, just doing is that an American term, an end run or something like that? You move around. I don't know that. I don't know how that works. I can visualize it. You sort of do a maneuver where you circumvent the ego, and you go straight to the subconscious, which is going to take. It's the disinterested ice cream guy, or the disinterested donut guy, who's going to give you what you want, whatever you want. It doesn't matter what you want. And so, if you can start programming that subconscious, that more universal part of your mind, then that's when the magic can start happening. So that's the big point that I've got out of your book, and thank you very much for that.
Yeah, thank you, Brent. You know,
Yeah,
a number of insights.
Andrew, I hate to interrupt, but I need to interrupt. I'm watching the Facebook Live. We have a question right now. I just like to answer questions when they come in, if I can.
Absolutely.
Okay. Josie England asks, can I find this book on Amazon?
The answer is yes. In fact, in terms of the print and Kindle, it's exclusively on Amazon, and that's regardless of your country. So if you just search, the cover looks the same no matter where you are. If you're in the United States, lastlawofattractionbook.com will auto forward there. But yeah, you can definitely find this on Amazon. Just make sure it's this cover because, you know, it's one of those things where it inspires other books like describing it or whatever. This is the real one with this cover. But yeah, absolutely, you can find it on Amazon. I was very intentional about that, Mark, and everyone, because I just want it to be easy for people. I don't want to be a thing where like, oh, they don't know the site or they don't know the fulfillment company. So I was very intentional about making it easy for people to access if they wanted to get the book.
Cool. Thanks. Josie got that, I'm sure.
Cool. And thank you, Josie. I hope you really, really enjoy it. Truly. Yeah, Mark, please feel free to interrupt if other questions pop in. And, you know, to address something that Brent said, I mean, a number of things popped in mind. We'll see how good I am at remembering them. But one thing, I guess, retouching on for the ego that I just thought of this example right now. This, by the way, is why I love doing these things, because it gives me an option or an opportunity to receive that download from the universe of like another way of describing something that will hopefully, maybe this is the way of describing that will click for somebody and give them what they need. But, you know, you're talking about the ego, like, you know, being worried about, you know, changes. And I can't even do justice what you said, but the example that popped into my mind was like, imagine, you know, you've got a really old car and, you know, you need it to get to work. You've got a long commute. There's no buses, there's no Uber, there's no other options. You need that car. And imagine a situation where the car starts falling apart. The heater goes, the AC goes, the seats start getting ripped up, the engine you're getting that weird check engine light, it's starting to make weird noises, and you start freaking out. You're like, ooh, okay. And you know, you don't have money for a new car. There's no new car dealership, right? And you're freaking out. Now, how is that situation different where, you know, a month from now, someone that really cares about you saved their life back in the day and they've been waiting to pay back the favor, they've got a new car waiting for you. They've got this brand spanking new car with everything, and this car is going to last you another 10 years. How different do you feel when the heater on the old car goes, or when things are weird, as long as you know you're safe? When the car starts falling apart, now you're not freaking out because you know you've got that new car waiting for you in a month. And the way I liken this is when you are doing these methods and things start to fall apart, it's very easy to freak out, but they might not be coming apart. They might be, you know, coming together. And it's a thing where if you knew the plan that the universe had for you, if you knew that the new car on the specific timeline that was going to be there in time for when you needed it, you would not be freaking out. And I think that's another example that I hope clicks with people. That new car, in the context of whatever concerns you might have, as you engage in this process and weird things start to happen, that new car is there for you. The universe has it queued up so long as you are open to the universe giving you that car and you're not delaying it. I mean, the universe has the car no matter what. Don't delay it by doubting it or freaking out. Embrace it so that it's going to be there waiting for you, even when it looks like the heater on your current car is going, or the seats are starting to get torn up, or that check engine light, or something else is going on with that car that's got you a little worried that it's not going to last much longer. And there was another piece that you'd mentioned that it might pop into my head. Who knows? It might come, but that was the big thing that I want to make sure to address, because that idea came to mind when you were describing it for me.
Yeah. Okay. This is a great response question session, not Q&A. Look, that's fantastic. And an idea that came into my head as you were speaking is that, and again, it comes back to this idea of perspective, or, you know, what level are we looking at our lives from? And the thing is that Abraham Hicks says something a bit like, look, we are all powerful creators. You know, we are all creating our lives, and that comes back to this idea I was talking about before, where, you know, people need to create. It's what we've come here for, and we really don't get how powerful we are at creating, because we've as I've said before, you know, we build up this idea of ego of, you know, oh, here I am, I'm Brent Chapman, I've got the 3 kids, I've got this job, I've got this house, I've got this more, I've got all these things, you know, and this is defining me, this is limiting me. And we don't realize that in a very real sense, we are creating our reality, you know, way beyond who we are and where we are. And, you know, as you were saying before, Andrew, you know, look, it's, you know, amazing technology. You know, we can imagine like a cable, a wire going out, connecting, you know, 4 continents, or you know, 3 continents in this case, or even more with all the people who are watching later. And in a, you know, look, we are. I personally didn't go out and lay those cables in the ocean or anything like that, but, you know, I am contributing to this reality, and it's being co-created, and, you know, I'm getting access to this, and it's happening, and it's a bit like that fruit dropping off the tree. You know, I didn't actually lay the cables there, but I'm you know, I am enjoying the results. And the thing is that we are so powerful, we are so capable, and we have access to so much, that why shouldn't we trust ourselves? Why shouldn't we, you know, if that engine light, you know, warning light comes on, why shouldn't we trust? Okay, yeah, I'm going to be taken care of. I'm going to get through it. You know, it's one of those things. Yeah, life happens in that way. You know, I can deal with it. You know, I've got this covered. You know, and it's another thing is that people, again, this is an Abraham Hicks quote, and I might not get it entirely right, but they say life is not coming at you, life is coming from you. So it's not that we are, you know, either it's a choice of either you're in a victim mentality, you got the perspective of being a victim and life's coming at you, and all these slings and arrows of outrageous fortune, as Shakespeare would say, are happening, or you are creating and say, wow, I've created this, you know. Esther Hicks, or Abraham, I think she's talking as Abraham, was talking about a story when they had these lovely crystals or something in a case or something, and it fell over and smashed, and Jerry came in because he heard this sound, and he said, oh, great, now we've got a chance to go out and buy some more stuff, you know. So he wasn't worried at the loss of what's happened. He's actually saying, wow, you know, we are so abundant, or we, you know, the universe is coming through us. We've got this chance to go out and create something new. And, you know, it's that level of trust, you know. Why wouldn't you trust yourself to be able to take care of yourself? Why wouldn't you trust the universe to be able to take care of you? Because it is coming. And another point is, you were touching on, Andrew, is that I've heard it said this way, is if you want that new car, then you've got to get your old car out of the garage. You got to make space. You know, the universe is not going to deliver you a new car if that parking space is already taken up with the old one. So you got to let go. And a practice I've just sort of, I was a bit inspired by your book and other books or anything. It's very, very simple practice I've come up with in the past week or so, is that whenever I catch myself, whenever I can get my perspective up, whenever I can raise my sort of awareness in a way, when I'm breathing in, you know, say, I allow my highest good. And when I breathe out, I release it to the universe. I allow and I release. I allow, and that's just a cycle. It's always that cycle. So you know, you've got to take inspired action. You've got to make the choice. So I allow my highest good and I release it to the universe, and I trust that. I trust that process, you know, and that's going to, again, as you were saying, Andrew, that's going to circumvent that niggling survival ego. That's going to be self-sabotaging you, you know. So yeah, and that's again why I appreciate your book so much, is that you've got lots of little exercises about that, the gratitude exercise, which I think is fantastic. So I don't know, maybe I'm sure you've got some things about that.
Yeah, well, first of all, thank you for that. There's so many thoughts come to mind as you're talking about that. When you were talking about why people tend to have so many doubts come in, and I think it's a natural offshoot of a combination of genetic programming, we're programmed to be survival is in our programming, because there was a time where like you're saying, you had to worry about a saber-toothed tiger and things of that nature, which I think bleeds into social and culture. So you're raised in a certain way to worry about certain things. And I think the beautiful thing is there are endless messages and signs from the universe telling you the truth if you know to be on the lookout for them. And they are in the most obscure, unexpected places. My style of music, I like to listen to, I like rock music. And a couple months ago, it might have been March, everything's a blur. The band Evanescence, they brought out a new album. And one of the titles of their songs on that album is Broken Pieces Shine. And just that title in and of itself, if you're looking, what's the message in that? I can't even tell you the lyrics, but what's the message in that title? What do we get out of that? Well, even when things seem like they're going in the wrong way, there is light in that. There is abundance. There's something in there. Even broken pieces of shattered glass, you see the shimmer, you see the glow, you see the magic of it. And when things seem like, things are going wrong, there's magic in there that, you might have to dig for the gold a little bit, or at least be a little more intentional, or be willing to go in there, but that's fine, because it's like a muscle. The more you do that, the better you get at it. And that's another thing. Everything becomes an opportunity. Once you're looking at that way, then you look at these bad things again. I don't welcome any negative experiences, but I have trained myself to whatever measure I can, use them or leverage them as opportunities in whatever way, shape, or form I can. And I think that's so important. And and here's the thing. I forgot what you said that kind of prompted this. Oh, yeah, you were talking about, here's the thought that I forgot before. You were reading my book and you heard the word ego, and you said survival ego. Like, you made a choice to put a different title on it that clicked more with you. In other words, you broke the rules, you bent the rules. You didn't take my book literally, but you reimagined an aspect of it in a way that worked for you. And I love that, because I'm assuming you inadvertently actually revealed one of the most important secrets and the most important solutions to one of the biggest mistakes that people make in the context of law of attraction. Because just the way you put a new word in front of it to make it click for you, I invite and encourage people. The methods that I did put in the book, I would made them very user-friendly and very clear, so that anyone could follow them step by step. And if it's your personality to follow them step by step, they are there for you. But there is simultaneously an invitation to say, if you want to tweak a step because you don't like the way this is laid out, you want to reorder it, do it. As long as the method gets you feeling good while thinking about what you have or what you want or both, it's doing its job. And I think that's really important when people do a law of attraction method or technique, or they do anything, they engage in any process. They should always feel welcome to make it their own. They can follow wherever the source is, whether it's an Abraham book or my book or anything else. And I would think that Abraham would agree with me, as I'm saying this. Try it step by step, but if there's a way to rework it that you enjoyed it in a different way, that, okay, now this is a spoonful of ice cream, by all means do it. If you're reading a book and I said ego and you want to say survival ego and that works, please, whatever you can do, you're not hurting anybody else. Why not adapt something the way that works for you?
I do apologize for this, but I've got to get this out because it will burn me up otherwise, all right?
Go for it, man.
Abraham, quote unquote, hot seater, talking about a process they were doing that was non-Abraham. Abraham just came out with one of the best answers ever. Whatever works for you. And anybody in the group will tell you that is I don't really have a favorite Abraham quote, but that is one of my favorites. I'm shutting up now.
No, thank you for that introduction. I think that's perfectly timed and perfectly suited. And by the way, leave it to Abraham to put into few words what I put into 500 words, you know? But yeah, like whatever works for you, however it works for you, that's where the magic is. And I think I'm sure people would agree, Abraham is not stuck on you doing it their way. It isn't their way. It was never their way. It's just a way that they are offering as an option for you on the hope and assumption that might work, and the simultaneous invitation that if it doesn't, you're free to tweak it in whatever way that you want. But then again, you know, Jonathan through Abraham put it way better, or way more succinctly, at least than I did, with whatever works for you. And that's where the magic is. I think that's very important in every aspect of your life, of what you're doing. I'm of the feeling, I always put this preface, as long as you're not hurting someone, especially as long as you're not intentionally hurting someone. And by the way, it's very easy to break a lot of rules and bend a lot of rules without hurting anyone. As long as you're not hurting someone, why not honor yourself? Why not do whatever you want to do for yourself? You know, there's that old adage, I think everyone knows, regardless of country, regardless of idiom and culture, of, you know, if that airplane has an issue, you put your mask on before you put anyone else's mask on. Because if you are not shored up in your own self, if you're not breathing okay, if you're not taking care of yourself, you are not at a point of power and agency and effectiveness and impact in order to help other people anyway. You serve people best by serving yourself first, because it's through that you can actually do a lot. And it's such an essential thing. And we often forget it. I don't know why we forget it. Again, is it social programming? Is it, you know, the way we learn something? Is it a hive mind? Is it magazines? Is it media? Is it a survival mechanism that has to do with our physicality that we can't spot? I think the beauty is you don't need to know the source in order to identify whether it works or not, in order to do something about it. And that's what it all comes down. You can always do something about it, whatever that it is that has been your excuse for getting in your way before that.
Yeah, Andrew, I'm going to jump in again. Just a couple of thoughts. Look, I'm going to go back, excuse me, to something we were talking about before, that is kind of connected to this. You know, obviously you got to put yourself first. You know, and you can't, unless you've got your own oxygen mask on, you can't help anybody next to you, and all those sorts of things. You know, if you don't learn how to swim, you're not going to save a drowning person, or whatever it is, you know, of survival techniques, you know, life-saving techniques. So yeah, you know, you've got to put yourself first in that sense. Now, it's when we were talking before about, you know, the survival ego and all these sort of things, these things that are limiting us, and all these learned behaviors and things like that, they are not in and of themselves bad. You know, the universe is neutral. It's a disinterested donut guy.
Yes.
You know, and all the experiences that you bring to yourself, they're all neutral, in the sense that, you know, the universe doesn't have an opinion on what you're creating for yourself. And so we've got to understand that we are, as I said before, more powerful than we know, and we are creating this. And so life is not coming to us, it's coming from us, or even more specifically, it's coming for us. It's for our benefit. You know, we are creating this so we can learn our lesson, or not learn a lesson, but, you know, have this experience. You know, Abraham Hicks has said something like, you have free will. You know, you are so powerful that you can create yourself as being powerless. You know, and so the disinterested donut guy is going to give you the experience of powerlessness, if that's what you want to create for yourself. So, you know, it's no point. I see no point in getting hung up or caught up in labeling these things and saying, oh, you know, we got to get rid of negativity, or we got to get rid of this. Nobody ever says that in the law of attraction. It's, you know, Abraham Hicks is going to call it contrast, and contrast is how we create. You know, so and they have their 5 steps, and step number 5 is actually reveling in the contrast when it comes, and saying, wow, you know, just like the book, The Case of Crystal Ornaments breaks. Well, here's a way to opportunity to create more. You know, do it all again, do it new, because it's not not the end point. Now, there's a writer called Alan Watts who borrowed very heavily from Eastern philosophies, and, you know, he was saying he was basically encapsulating the idea of it's the journey, not the destination, when he was describing life is a bit like a dance, you know, in that you don't go to a dance, you don't, you know, participate in a dance just to end up on the finishing spot of the dance floor. You know, you if that was the case, everyone would turn up, they'd go stand in their final positions, and that would be it. And that's not the way it is, you know. And the same with music. If the idea was just to have the final note or the final crescendo, then that's all people would write. That's all they would perform. But it's not that. We've come here for the process, and so it's this unfolding, this sort of creating within your own creation. So we are very, very powerful. We are creating, and we're creating within this creation and within co-creation within our shared experiences. And people, you know, again, coming back to this idea of perspective of, you know, how we perceive things, people have got to be able to realize that they have this agency, they have this power. And a lot of it is to do with connection, the way we connect to people. Again, an idea from this guy, Alan Watts, who was writing back in the 40s and 50s. He was saying, look, people often think that they will be happiest when when it's all eyes on me, you know, everybody listen to me or look at me. But actually it's not. People are actually happier when they're out of themselves. If you find if you look on it and you find yourself in a moment where you're lost in something, you're lost in the joy of, I don't know, doing needlework, if that's your thing, or, you know, playing a video game, or playing tennis, playing a sport like Mark does, or whatever it is. When you are out of your ego, when you're out of this survival ego mode or whatever, when you can raise your perspective to a larger viewpoint, a greater viewpoint, then that's when you can actually tap into the power that creates worlds, as they say. And that's when you can circumvent these limited ideas and get to put into the subconscious what you want. You know, you're able to tap into that thing. And again, as I said, Andrew, that's the biggest benefit I've got out of your book, is that you've got these techniques that help you to do that. So that helps you to an idea I've been going across recently is this idea of entanglement. People get entangled in this very limited view, the small e ego, not the big E ego, not the more universal ego, and it becomes like a vicious circle or repeating a loop where you can't get out, because every time you start self-sabotaging. And so that's why I applaud your book. That's why I'm so glad you've come on here to discuss it with us, is that your techniques, or the way you've explained it, is that you've enabled people to get out, to have these techniques to get out of this entanglement, okay, to get out of themselves in a lot of ways.
Brent, thank you so much. Thank you for, first of all, thank you for that compliment and that feedback. I appreciate that more than I can say through words. And I like to think of myself as verbose. I'd also, you know, I love you, and what you just said, what that inspired in me. You were talking about the dance specifically, and, you know, where people end up. The magic is being, the magic is living. And whether you love sports or not, I think this will make sense. I challenge anyone to go on YouTube or whatever and find the top highlights of a sport, of a team, of a person, or whatever it might be. Find one highlight where they're shaking hands at the end of the game. It's like, no, there's no highlights when the game is over. The highlights are in the duration of the game. The big touchdown pass, the big defensive play, the Michael Jordan taking, even if it's the final seconds of the game, it's still the game. There's no point where people are like, oh my God, you got to see this highlight of people shaking hands when the final buzzer's done and, you know, it's Yankee Stadium, they're playing New York, and people are going home. You got to see that highlight. No, that's not a highlight. That's a no light. It's not even a low light. It's well, I mean, it's still living, but you know what I mean? it's in the game. It's the magic of the being in the moment and the journey through the game that those plays are made. Those plays where you get that call from that agent, those plays where you get that call from that job that you want, where you meet that person. Sometimes, people, they're in such a rush to fall in love. What about the first kiss? What about the first date? Don't you want to enjoy that? It's like these are the highlights that you're going to think back on when you're married with that person, or whatever it might be, whatever aspect of your life. So thank you for inspiring that in me, but also thank you for the compliment on the methods, Brent. It was very important to me as someone who recognizes or has, and as someone who's guilty offender, that it's very easy for us to overcomplicate things and get in our way, inadvertently, of course. It was very important for me to leave as few excuses as possible and as few possibilities as possible that would happen. So I was very intentional about making the method so direct and ideally so enjoyable. Also with the understanding that, maybe someone will love them all, but the whole point is they don't. That's why I have more than one, because we seek variety. One person might love scripting. One person might love gratitude. It doesn't matter. The beauty is it's about having the options, it's about having the variety so that you can do whatever you can do. And again, ideally that you enjoy it. So thank you very much just for the compliment. And also thank you for the recognition that it really is about, we're in the moment of living. And I think oftentimes people don't even realize that they're making highlights and they're not reveling in them. They're not basking in them. And if they would only bask in those highlights, not only would they get more highlights, but they would enjoy the moment more. They would get faster highlights, more dramatic highlights. They would cross sports. They'd go from throwing touchdowns to hitting home runs because it would just be this automatic, wonderful thing. It would cascade, it's all connected. It's one big web. And a key leveraging point is just appreciating the moment to whatever measure you can, even in the face of frustrations, fears, uncertainty, or as you put it so eloquently, in recognition of what Abraham would say, contrast. Because most people, I'm sorry, you're saying, Brent?
Sorry to jump in again. Look, just on what you're saying there, one of the methods in your book that stands out, and I just wanted to share it with people here, is, and Lynn, I heard you call it pennies from heaven, but it actually pennies to millions. And that's a great method. So I just thought maybe if you wanted to share that one, maybe.
Yeah, I'm happy to. So pennies to millions method, it's actually so simple. So it's made in the recognition. We're gonna back up. We're gonna talk about manifestational raindrops, and that'll very seamlessly lead into the pennies to millions methods. So I think and I hope that I'm the originator of this. I don't think I've ever heard anyone else put it this way. I really think that it is my thing, although I hope people now take it in stride and use it. I have this term that I think I've coined called manifestational raindrops. And again, relating to real life, whether it's working out and ice cream or it's the donut guy, this is with that understanding that I think everybody knows what it's like to be outside and it's kind of overcast and you feel like a tickling on your skin. Very, very, very subtle. And there's moisture. And you look and, all of a sudden, like a few seconds later, you're seeing like little splotches. Maybe you're wearing something dark. And then you're hearing like the little bigger splotches hitting the ground and the pavement. And the rain's picking up more and more and more and more and more. And before you know it, a torrential downpour out of the blue, right? And the point there that people can understand through that example is that the instant, technically even before the instant, but the instant that you had that first perceived tickle on your skin, the storm was inevitable. And by that same token, if you want to fall in love, that first match on that dating app is a raindrop indicating the storm, even if that's not the person that you end up with. That first date is a raindrop, the first time you laugh together. If you want money, that offer for a job, even if you're not interested in a job, is a raindrop. It's the universe saying that there is a storm, there's a manifestational storm on the way for you, which, by the way, you can hold up an umbrella of resistance, but all that's doing is keeping you from experiencing the storm. Above the umbrella, past the umbrella, it's still raining abundance on you. And with that understanding and that in mind, in that context, pennies to millions is basically the advice, because you tell someone to manifest $20 on the street and they're like, that's impossible. It's not impossible. Abraham says, a castle and a button, it's all the same thing, right? But people like, no, $20 is too hard, but anyone could manifest a penny, right? Anyone could welcome that. And the point is, you don't put a requirement that it happens that day, even though it might happen that day. But when you're walking and you spot a penny, you want to celebrate it, because that penny is your manifestational raindrop, is your universe screaming at you, money and abundance is on the way. That it's millions are on the way. Celebrate that penny as if it's a winning lotto ticket. That's the pennies to millions method. It's finding something little, whether it's a penny or anything else in life. And you're like, oh my God, this is so awesome. Universe just gave me money. Universe is always giving me money, by the way. That lunch that my friend treated me to, that's money. Every meal that was ever paid for when I was a kid, that's money. Every item of clothing that someone paid for me to wear when I was a kid, the roof over my head that I never had to pay rent for, that was money. All these things, I'm a money magnet. Oh my God. And now the penny too. This is awesome. The millions are coming. So the pennies to millions method is that recognition that those small things are only small by your definition. They are that raindrop, that subtle little trickle, that the storm of abundance is there. It's inevitable. It's technically already happening. It's just that your umbrella that you've been realizing, it's not even an umbrella of resistance at that point. It's an umbrella of unawareness. I've never used that term before, but the abundance is already there. So that's my long-winded explanation of the pennies to millions method. I'm glad Lynn enjoyed it. I'm glad everybody enjoys it, because that's one of my favorites, because I think it's a wonderful way of acknowledging, whether it's a penny in the context of money, or it's a match on a dating app in the context of falling in love, or it's, if your back hurts and it feels a little bit better today than it did yesterday, and now your back's going to get better, like any aspect of your life, any little improvement, any little thing that you assign meaning to as being a good thing, you use that as a leveraging point to invite more, to invite the absolute level of optimum abundance that's really there for you.
I have 3 questions.
Yes, sir.
Okay. First of all, I want to say welcome, Selina. Selina has been on Facebook Live cooking dinner, so she's been listening. Excellent. And anyway, and Selina's another special person in our age group life. My 3 questions are this: Lynn, do you have a question? Karen, do you have a question? Selina, do you have a question? Those are my 3 questions.
I actually did my question, but I have a couple. Now, first, I just want to mention though, Andrew was saying about different kinds of things to be grateful for and all of that. So you were just saying, like, one thing I think that you're very good at, Andrew's very good at, whether it's through his book or the other programs that you have, or that gratitude one that you did, the daily, the video and all that. I feel like sometimes people don't realize all the things that they have to be grateful for. And when you bring out the specific examples, like a laundry list of them, I remember one of the things, and maybe you don't do this necessarily in the book, but it was in one of your programs, but you had said something about if everybody thought about their body, and be grateful for that. You're like, this part does that part does this, and and it's like, by the time I heard the end of you listing all these things that most of us could relate to, and that your heart knows how to do this and this, I was choked up by the end of you saying that list of all the things that we have to be grateful for our physical vessel. It was just like, I went from not thinking about it to being like, oh my God, how am I taking this for granted? It was like such an abundant blessing. So I think that's one of the talents that you have, among all the many other ways that talents that you infuse this book with. But I think you help people to realize how much there is to be grateful for already.
Thank you.
Yes, I just want to say that. The other thing was I wanted to ask, what do you do when, so say you start at the beginning of your day and you're fairly in alignment, or you're feeling good, etc. But it's later in the afternoon and you've been through different situations or whatever, and maybe you don't feel as aligned anymore. Do you do a certain process, or do you go for a walk or something, or do you have any go-to things for back into alignment at the end of the day?
Really good question.
Thank you.
So I'm very, I don't know if I'm unique in this way. It's hard to throw me off, meaning something rough, and rough things happen. but something rough has to happen. So usually if something rough has happened, it's at the extreme point where I'm like, okay, I need to take a few deep breaths. Or a couple, I guess the answer is better for you. A couple of them are so basic, of course, taking deep breaths, going for a walk, but also like reframing. And I don't talk about this in the book really. It's and I don't know how that word resonates with people. It's like a psychological term, but oftentimes I have to reframe the thing. So
very good.
I was trying to have like a good example here of like, you know, so somebody wrote me a couple of days ago. They wrote me and they were very they just started listening to the book, and they misinterpreted something that I said, and they were very upset. And they said, Andrew, I'm about to give you a 1-star review, but I figured, you know what? Let me give you a chance to explain yourself.
Wow.
Now I could be like I'm at the point where the bad reviews don't bother me. The only thing about bad reviews that bother me is if it inadvertently stops someone that was going to enjoy the book, whether it's mine or anyone else.
Right.
And I could have been like mad or been insulted, but I'm like, no, wait a second. This person is asking for help. Am I going to be offended, or am I going to actually answer their question and do what I sell myself as doing and actually help them? So it was a simple decision of like, I could be offended or be like, well, no. And if they still want to give me a 1-star review, I still did my part. So I wrote, and you know me, Lynn, I answer everyone's emails. I wrote this person back. I gave him a great answer. And you know what? After that, not that I was expecting or requiring it, but they were, I could tell in their reply to me that I gave them relief.
Beautiful.
And through that relief, I actually gave them the opportunity to enjoy the book more. So I kind of got a win. So reframing in that way, whether it's an opportunity to do something better. So take a deep breath, take a walk, or reframe. I think reframes are very underrated, but it's a muscle that you have to build. It's a muscle that you have to work on, because when you first start to reframe, you probably think you're lying to yourself. And if you think you're lying to yourself, you got to reframe in a different way. Even like, listen, I will soften it with a qualifier. Like, I don't know if this is true, but it's possible that this is what's going on. All right, I've softened it where it's not even a requirement. I don't know, it's possible. But even hearing me answer this question, I might come out with a program one day, like where I'll work with groups just on reframes, because they're so powerful. They're so powerful that if you can learn how to reframe, you are on your way. But I'm hoping that answered your question, Lynn.
Beautiful. Thank you. Thank you.
I'm not sure if anyone else had a question, because you know me, I can keep talking.
I just had something that I I've enjoyed this so much so far, and we'll enjoy it a little bit longer if we can go till 10.
Yeah, for sure.
Great. Well, I wanted just to say a few things about, I love the way you connect with people. And I think that was a perfect example of when you gave Lynn how you reframe and how you soften. And I think that you're just really, that goes hand in hand. You want to share your message, and you really have a way of communicating and connecting, which I have very much enjoyed seeing this evening, and so many other things, excuse me, I've enjoyed. One of the things that you spoke about early on, I just wanted to mention, I absolutely love, is paring things down, making things really simple and clear. That's one of my favorite things. And I just wanted to, because Marcus happens to be wearing this green shirt of his, I just wanted to mention that. So years ago, I was looking for a way to put the Abraham perspective into one sentence that would make just across the board sense, at least for me and maybe for others. And so I had these shirts made and bumper stickers and so forth with think happy thoughts and good things will happen. So it's just simple cause and effect. But anyway, that aside, I just really love your clarity. I love how you make it so I love your analogies. I love how you get your message across wherever somebody is. I just feel like you are finding them right there at that place, and you have got something really relevant. You've got some kind of an analogy or an example, some kind of clarity to extend to them. So anywho, that's just what I wanted to say. And if anybody else has a question, like Selina or Jonathan or Brent, just go right ahead.
Well, I haven't read your book, and I came in quite late, so I can't really comment. But I wonder if you've ever thought of inventions as your easy way into appreciation. That's my easy way in for appreciation. Inventions. Have you ever thought about that? Like,
well, for me personally, not yet. But for anyone that it works for them, I think anything is the way in. If inventions inspires you or lights you up, that's your way in. If gardening lights you up, that's your way in. If driving in your car lights and just cruising lights you up, that's your way in. I mean, I hear you talk about inventions, and immediately in my mind, we always assign meaning to things. I'm envisioning this burst and explosion of light within creativity, where all these magic explosions are happening in your mind, and the manifestation of the invention is coming to place, and it's beginning the process of being in the physical reality. So I've never, I've never considered that because it's never occurred to me. But I think that's a wonderful way for the right person that is inspired to invent or to create in that way.
I'm not thinking of inventing. I'm thinking like, okay, so we're surrounded by man-made objects, right?
Mm-hmm.
Like all of us in our homes, like we have tons of man-made objects everywhere. And every single man-made object that's around us was likely invented in the last like 50 to 100 years, right? It didn't even exist before.
Right.
And isn't it like magnificent to look at any object? You can look at a clock, your TV, a speaker.
So now I understand your question. I thought you meant like the process of inventing, like you being the one. Okay, I understand. Yeah, so I think what you're talking about is a wonderful example. What you're actually talking about, and obviously I have my own way of describing it, it's one of my methods I call the gratitude blitz. Not that you have to blitz in order to do it this way, but the gratitude blitz is basically, thinking of as many things as you can, whether it's about a specific topic or just in general that you are grateful for. And what you talk about speaks to like one example where you like literally like look in the room around you, like look at all these cool things. And what I think really is really cool about that kind of thing is you think about the energy and the focus that was required. Somebody might have, driven themselves crazy for 20 years so that you could have that thing. And they didn't just drive themselves crazy in the invention of itself. They drove themselves crazy trying to find funding, trying to find investors, trying to come up with artists or people that can manufacture it for them, trying to find all the pieces in place that could bring that, because they weren't doing themselves. There's so many different things. I mean, I'm looking around right now and imagining like all the different efforts that people made so that I can have like one extra thing. And even that, so I'll use my book selfishly as an example. So this book, I was actually helping a friend before. He's writing a book, and I sent him a copy of my book a few months ago because I knew he was going to write his own book, and I knew he was going to have questions for me, and I wanted to be able to have him in this in his hand for context. And one of the things that he was asking about was like cover creation. I said, Matt, look, if you open the thing, you can see that the front cover, the spine, and the back cover, it's actually all one big image. And I revel at the ease that whoever, Amazon and KDP, when they were designing it and they were putting in the code work to make it so that you can seamlessly put one image in there rather than do separate images, so that it would be one big smooth thing and that your book would look better. Like even that, I wonder what kind of stress and pressure those developers were under, because Amazon's such high standards, and yet they came up with such a cool idea. And even, again, the book, like, I'm not taking credit for this. This is Amazon, the print quality, the quality of the pages, like the work that they went in. 15 years ago, I could have found some kind of publishing on demand, but not on this level. where everything's taken care of. To say nothing for the microphone that's out of frame right now, that really high level microphone, to say nothing of this laptop, to say nothing of everything. So I'm totally with you. There's so many things we're surrounded by. And again, in the midst of any contrast or frustration or whatever you might call it, that people might be experiencing it, it is just as simple as looking around the room and just staying on topic and making my answer a little bit longer. Getting back to blitzes, you know, Lynn was talking about like again, the body and feeling better. Going on a blitz about your body, even if you are in pain, or even if there's something about it that doesn't please you as much as you want. My favorite example, because it's so obvious and so easy, is your heart, which is as I describe it, and I'm probably not the originator of this, but I describe it as it's beating every second of every minute, of every hour, of every day, of every week, of every month, of every year, of every decade that you've been alive. Every second, nonstop, in service to you, never quitting, pumping blood and nutrients to other parts of your body, which are working for you nonstop, never ending. Like, how could you not be, even if your back hurts, even if you're, you know, you twisted your ankle, even if you're tired, even if you're not eating as well as you should, and you can fix that, by the way, whatever it might be, like, how could you not be grateful for that aspect and all these other aspects if you just give yourself the space to consider this? And just to quickly, you know, thank Karen and acknowledge, Karen, your feedback for me. I appreciate that. And the reason I hope that people get clarity out of me and get good examples is because in those first years when I was trying to sort this out, I made every mistake you can think of, and I got in my own way just as much as anyone else has ever had. And for me, I'm fortunate in that I've been relentless and inquisitive and curious enough and self-examining enough to kind of catch myself in my own BS and try to think my way around it and try to recognize it. And just, you know, I try to make it look effortless. It's the result of years of grinding, to be honest. And the reason I bring that up is because whatever clarity I might be coming across, which I hope it is, there's some level of brilliance that's coming from everybody that everyone has an opportunity to engage in and to leverage and to bring out into the world that people will never understand, most likely never appreciate the grit that went into it. And yet you can still be magic for them effortlessly just by being yourself.
Thank you, Andrew. I could just jump in for a second. I've been using your gratitude blitz method, and it's really good. It's a spoon of ice cream that is takes a bit of perseverance for me, you know. But I try to, you know, as I said before, you know, I try to take the perspective that, you know, everything's happening for me. So, you know, I can be grateful for all these things, even the so-called negative things, or the things that are alerting me to some areas of my life which are holding me back. You know, the again, I'll use that term, survival ego loops that are, you know, caught up in something that needs to be cleared or needs to be acknowledged and let go of. So yeah, it works a lot, but again, you know, I come across a bit of resistance because, you know, I think, oh wow, you know, I've got to do this, but you know, then I've got to say, well, okay, thanks for letting me know, thanks for alerting me to this. This is another part of my life that I can, or another part of my thinking. You know, thoughts become things. You know, think happy thoughts and good things will happen, as Karen is saying. But you know, when unhappy thoughts come up, I say, well, you know, I'm not going to dwell on them, but I'm going to say, well, thanks for alerting me, and you know, that gives me the chance to choose a better feeling thought, or you know, things I do like, and it happens all the time. You know, a good analogy I've come across in other books, or another book is, you know, they're saying if you were driving in your car with your friend, and your friend reaches over and turns the radio on to a station you don't like, you know, maybe playing heavy metal or death metal thrash music, or maybe sappy classical music. If you didn't, whatever your tastes are, if you didn't like that music, you'd probably say, "No, look, this is my car. I'm, I don't want that," and you'd change the channel. Or if you were eating something, you went to a buffet, and you took a mouthful of something, you probably wouldn't spit it out if you find a napkin or something, if you really couldn't stand it, but you wouldn't keep eating it. And people would, with things like music and food or the clothes they're wearing or whatever it is, they do it pretty quickly. But when it comes to things like a career or some relationship or something like that, people have got much less awareness, let me say it that way, of what the message is. The message is, if you really don't like your job, then you're in the wrong field. You shouldn't be I don't know, a computer programmer if you don't like that job, or you shouldn't be a janitor or a neurosurgeon or whatever it is you're doing. Look, I know that because my father was a dentist, and he went into that because his parents told him, "Oh, you got to make money, you got to become a dentist," and he hated it, putting his fingers in people's mouths. I mean, he did it well. But he wanted to be something with his hands. He wanted to, tinker with things, and he retired from dentistry after he made some money from it, and then was able to retire, and he got into a series of failed businesses about where he was doing things with his hands, but he was very happy. He was happy doing those things. So that's the point, is that we keep on doing things that we think we should be doing because we don't get the message that they're giving to us, which is find something you're grateful for. And as you were saying, with your heart, if you're grateful for your heart, then maybe your bad back will get better. Abraham Hicks said it this way. I think you could have 10 things in your life, and one of them is going well and the rest are going badly. You concentrate on that one thing and the rest of them fall into place. And there could be another 10 things in your life, 9 of them are going well and one of them's going badly. You concentrate on that bad one and the rest of them fall to pieces. So gratitude, again, I'll compliment your book again. It's great that the Gratitude Blitz is a very good method, because it helps us focus on what we are grateful for and what we want to bring into our lives more. And if I'll just keep going, because one more thought, and I'll tell you a little story from what Selina was saying about inventions. And again, I thought when she said inventions, I was thinking, wow, I've never thought of making inventions as a process of law of attraction. But anyway, I was reading a book once about Japan, about the way they do things, the way they produce things in Japan. And they've got what's called a word called a ringisho, which means a circulating document. So in a company, they've got somebody, usually the high level management say, okay, we're going to produce a new digital recorder or something, and you guys do it. And that's and then they go off and play golf, and they give it to the lower middle level management, and they make a document. They say a better digital recorder, and they circulate that. Okay, it's a circulating document, and everybody comes in and puts in their ideas, and they come back and they say, oh, okay, some of these are good, some of these not so good, and they say, well, let's work on this and let's drop that, and they circulate it again, and they go through this process, and they go around and around until they've got the perfect document to make the perfect digital recorder. And then the people go off and they work on, one person's working on the perfect actuator or whatever it is. I don't know, the perfect circuit board or the perfect motor drive or something. And they go around and around, and they get this kind of perfection eventually. And that's why Japanese goods are so reliable and so renowned for their workmanship. And and we can appreciate that. We can have gratitude for that. As Selina was saying, you look around and say, wow, this is amazing. Look at these things. And it's the same with the universe. All the Abraham Hicks would say, all the fairies of the universe, all the little workers of the universe are back there doing their jobs. You don't have to worry about it. You don't have to worry about how I'm not worrying about how my computer works or how the microphone and the camera works. The fact that I'm able to talk to all these wonderful people and have this fantastic conversation is amazing. And I appreciate that. But, I'm not going to go in and, change the circuit on my computer or something. I mean, some people do. Some people, I'm not saying it's not possible. Some people love upgrading their, pulling their computers apart and upgrading it. For me, I'm really grateful just to have it here and just to use it and utilize it in this way. And so, coming back to what you were saying before, Andrew, about the gratitude blitz, you can make a whole list of these things, and they can be amazing and beyond your comprehension of how they've come about. But you can be grateful for them, and you can focus on them. And of course, that's what the disinterested donut seller is going to say. Well, okay, you want more of those things. You want better computers. You want, more connections. Okay, here they are. Okay, and if you concentrate on that one thing, those other 9 things are going to fall into place. So yeah, I'm just sort of making a link there with your book and what I've heard on Abraham Hicks.
Thank you so much, Brent. I got to tell you something. And
just before you go on, Andrew, I'll get to here and everything. This gratitude blitz and everything. I'll be honest with you, I haven't read your book yet and everything. So, but this does resonate with me. I am a bit anal with Abraham and do prefer the term appreciation. Anybody in the group will tell you that. But whatever term you prefer, that's you. But it's something you were saying, this gratitude blitz. If I understand it right, I've been doing this for over 1.5 years because just simply appreciating this recliner chair I am sitting in, I end up appreciating the people who have posted it. I even appreciate the people who mined the metal to make the metal frame, the metallists who made the metal frame, the people who constructed the strings, people who even invented springs. So I've got this recliner. And Karen will tell you this, we discussed it a few weeks ago. There's many a time I could just focus on one object and get a massive appreciation list going of all the things associated with that. Even if I buy a bottle of spirits from the supermarket, you'll be surprised how many things you can appreciate from something as simple as that.
So it sounds to me like you were right on just in terms of the intent. And I have a full recognition, by the way. I know in the Abraham community that the word appreciation usually for lack of a better way of describing it, carries more weight than gratitude. And part of my decision-making process, even in that, is like, I think gratitude as for a layman who doesn't know Abraham, trying to reach more people, that was part of my intent, and even with the terminology. But I totally get that. So I want to acknowledge that for you. But it sounds to me like you're right on. Also to address Brent, and Brent, I mean this just in case it's not clear. I mean this as a compliment, because I've really been enjoying what you've been putting in here. But you are a challenge to speak with in this environment, because you give me so many good points to address that I'm like, okay, I have to work hard to find the best one on this multitude, this wide list of options that you've given me. So I almost wish that I can, like, my brain could process everything and put everything out at once. So I want to pay the compliment of saying that there's so much that I was inspired by your last response. But the one thing that I've decided I think might be the most valuable is you mentioned pretty early on in when you were speaking. And wasn't sure, and I'm not going to say if you meant this from personal experience or you meant this more as like a general thing that people would experience, but you spoke to put words in your mouth, you spoke to the challenge of negative thoughts popping into your mind, or even negative experiences coming out of the blue. Like, what do we do? And I would say, and I would imagine that Abraham would probably be really huge in agreement with this as a suggestion, whether it's to you or just a general person that is experiencing that or being challenged by that, is to inject a level of playfulness into these situations. And what that inspired me in is it actually reminded me a method that I've never taught before, that I tried out years ago. I was telling Karen before, like all this stuff, it comes from years of experimenting and trying and this and that. So I'm going to teach a method real quick I've never taught before. This will be a world exclusive. And this was inspired by a situation where when I was experimenting with this, I remember I was helping someone years back in his business, and he was dealing with certain challenges. He would have a cold call, he'd do a cold call and the person would hang up on him, or someone would scream, or something would go wrong. And because we were in this experimentation of like, okay, how do we flip a negative into a positive? We weren't using contrast. We were using more layman's terms. And I was like, okay, I got something. And it was from a playful state of mind. And I call this I wrote it down, it's been so long, the remember that time method. It's where you go, remember that time when, and then you say the negative thing that happened, and then you and you give a positive. So it's kind of like, and you can be as ridiculous or as in line as you want with this. Like, remember that time when that, cold call hung up on you and then you won the lottery? Or remember that time when, that person was yelling at you and then you realized you had 20 extra bucks in your wallet that you didn't realize? And, again, it could be the mundane or it could be like the ridiculous, but it became a fun, creative challenge where something negative would happen. And one of us would go to the other, hey, remember that time when? That's how we would tell each other that this thing happened. Like, remember that time when I stubbed my toe? And then the next day I got that date with that person that I've been wanting to go out with for months. And it could be something that I'm expecting or not expecting. It could be something that they're expecting or not expecting. But I'm inspired to share this on this call in hopes that maybe someone will use that as an inspiration for playfulness of when there's something negative that happens tomorrow and you go, remember that time when this happened and then that happened, and have fun with it. Be ridiculous, be off the wall, or be accurate. If something's on the way in the mail and it's coming in 2 days and you remember it came a day early, it doesn't have to be dramatic. It doesn't have to be a big deal as long as it's something good and positive. But I would say, so you, Brent, in that comment where you're going on all these different places, that piece specifically lit up more than anything else, to borrow Abraham's terminology, and inspired me to want to address that with this response. And now I've got to remember to make this a YouTube video for myself, because this is a wonderful method for me to teach on my channel. So thank you throughout the whole night, everyone, for inspiring these responses and helping me get the juices flowing and get better answers.
Andrew, my turn.
Yes, sir.
I'm going to do it. First of all, I'm going to make a very strong, clear comment. You sound just like my inner being.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
Familiar, clear, understanding, knowledgeable, obvious. You're like obvious. It doesn't matter I'm very connected with my inner being easily when I want to. And that's how you sound, just like my inner being. And I think everybody can understand what I mean by that, because the way you present things is just like your inner being is there, got the answers, it's obvious, it's clear. Okay.
Thank you so much.
And I'm going to ask you a question, but I don't really want you to dabble with it too much. There's this thing called channeling and connecting and things like that. I just want to make one comment about that. When Selina came on and asked her question, you used some words that fit Selina perfectly. It's amazing. And it wasn't even, when you said the words, it was this thing about invention. And then you used the word explosions and blitzes. And then you went to the rampage of appreciation, or some term that meant your terminology for rampage of appreciation. I heard those things, and those are things that are like in Selina. She explodes with things and blitzes and rampages of appreciation. And she has a story of her own. You need to hear her story sometime. Really, Selina, you got to hear Selina's story sometime. And it's a from bedridden, sick, ill, not being able to function in life to dancing and energy and unlimited dancing and energy and fun and appreciation, and how she got there. And it was Abe. So she's got an incredible story. And the way she tells it is the way, but okay. Do you know Mike Dooley and you know Andy Dooley? You know those two?
I do.
Okay. They're different. They're brothers. Their presentation is very different. Andy Dooley is this crazy, all out there, jumpy, dancey, crazy, funny guy. And Mike Dooley is different. He's got this thing, Mike Dooley and Andy Dooley. So there's a different kind of thing. And it's interesting because you were talking about how people can receive things and how things send out things. It just seems like you're able to do all of that. You sound like you've created this thing about you that seems to resonate with somebody as wild and crazy and fun and fancy as Selina. Somebody as wise and studious and as Karen. She's the nicest, wisest, smartest person I've ever met. And then for me, and for me personally, you just sound just like my inner being. If anybody else can resonate with that, I wanted to let you know that I'm hearing you, and I'm going to read your book, and I'm assuming that I'll get that same some things from your book, and so I feel very fortunate to be able to play with you because your ability to connect with so many different kind of people. And I guess the only question I might have when you're speaking with somebody like Selina or Brent or Karen or whatever, how does that connection feel? Because apparently you're doing something that is a connection. Do you go there with that?
So it's really interesting. Before you got to your actual question right there, I was hearing a question from you. And the question I was hearing from you was like, Andrew, are you channeling? And if so, how are you channeling? And if so, how might that relate to how Esther channels? That's what I was hearing. And I'm not sure if you were asking that, but that's what I was getting. And I would say this, I'm definitely not channeling the way Esther channels, in that my perception of Esther is that she's aware of this group of beings speaking and flowing through her, and she's getting in a meditative, relaxed state first and things like that. I've given this a lot of thought. I believe I am channeling, but in a different way, where I have no idea what or who is speaking through me. And when it's being spoken, I don't know if it's all the words, if it's every other word, if it's choice sentences. So to be honest, I don't know what or how things are happening. I'm of the opinion that we're all channeling on some level to the extent that we are open to it. And I believe specifically in these kinds of conversations, not even on my YouTube videos, like on these conversations where I'm live with people and I know, and I'm in, and there's that human contact and that human interaction. I think that's kind of like greasing the wheels in a lot more of a conducive situation where there's a deeper, more profound, more prominent channeling of the words are effortless, where they're coming through. And to be honest, and I don't know if this is a good choice or a bad choice, I try not to think about it too much because, and I know that this is a false limit and a false illusion. I'm almost worried that I don't want to like get in my head too much about it. I want to let it flow type of thing. Like, I don't want to look too close, like, oh my God, what if I see how the sausage is being made and then I can't do it anymore? So I believe, given thought that there's something going on, but certainly not in the same way for Esther, and not in a way that, at least yet, I've been able to invite to such a clear way, the way she can be like, all right, it's time. Where me, it's more like, ask me a question, it'll happen automatically, but I don't find the flow finds me.
Perfect. Thank you. Awesome.
Andrew, can I again, just make some observations here.
Yeah, and by the
look,
way, it's 10. I have plenty of time, so I'm on no time budget. But I just wanted to note that for Karen because I'm not sure. But yeah, Brent, please have at it.
Okay, that's fine.
Wait, before you go, Brent, we can stay on. Yeah, we'll stay on.
Yeah, I've got no time limits personally.
We'll keep it on Facebook Live also, but I have to stop the recording because of it gets unwieldy large, and I want to be able to move it just in case we want to. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to stop the recording. So, and I guess we just had a nice summary at the end of the recording, so I think that was awesome.
Cool.